All right, welcome everybody. I'm just buttoning up a couple of last couple of three things, and we're going to be beginning in a moment. And we have a fantastic guest today. Let me know if everybody can hear me well. All right, welcome everybody. Oh wow, we have Mark from UK joining. Wow, must be a late hour by you, around midnight right now. Well, thanks for joining. Today we have a fantastic guest, and we also have a very cool giveaway today. Let me just give you a little bit of a preview of what the giveaway is. And ta-da! So recently, I have received a handful of Italian reels. Yep, straight from Italy. This one is Carp Reaction XT8000 front drag. Very solid made, I have to say. It looks a little bit old school. It is really well made. 9 ball bearings, nothing to sneeze at, to be honest. And this will be given away later on today. Okay, this fancy beast. So make sure you stay tuned, because at some point, not necessarily at the end, we're going to give it away. Hey, Dominique, Nikki, welcome to the show. All right, so everybody, today is going to be a fantastic episode. I just came back from Texas. I was there for a whole week. I was guided by Austin Anderson and his CarpPro Texas Guide Service. So we'll be talking to Austin, and we'll be talking a lot about his guide service and what is it exactly that he do that allows me to catch all those fish that I was sharing during my week. And I'll give you my perspective. We'll talk to Austin. From what I know, my opinion, and I hold him in very high regard, including his service and personally as well, is shared pretty much by everybody who comes in contact with. So this will be a very, very cool live stream, so you can see what it is like to be guided by somebody like him. Let me do a little bit more housekeeping. Okay. So we went over the giveaway today. Now let me a little bit more properly introduce Austin. So again, Austin is from CarpPro Texas Guide Service. He's a friend of mine, and also he's guiding everybody around Texas who's fishing for buffalo. But not only, his extensive knowledge of the Texas water and fish extends to, well, primarily buffalo, because that's where a lot of people go over there, because we don't have access to big buffs in most of the country the way Austin does. But also carp, common carp, catfish, which we will highlight later, and also game fish. So if you're an avid bass angler, bass fisherman, hit him up as well. He is really, really good at what he does. So he does all of this. So that's Austin. I'm going to bring him over in a minute. But again, just a reminder that at some point during the show, we will give away this Italian carp reel. That's a K-Carp 8000 size front drag. Really, really quality piece of gear. All right, so let me see if Austin is ready, and we're going to bring him on. Austin, welcome to the show. Can you hear me?
What's up?
It's all good.
I
I'm
can hear you.
recovering. I'm recovering from hauling all those big fish last week. My arm is still hurting.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of heavy lifting this past week.
That's for sure. It's been more than fun. Um, Austin, I know I tried to give you a brief introduction, but for those selected few who live under the rock per se that might not know you yet, give us a little bit more intro about yourself and the guide service that you have, and frankly, tell us what to expect when somebody books a trip with you, like I did, not for the first time.
Yes, so I do most of my guided trips by the day, and I'll get there super early in the morning set up, so everything is completely set up when my clients arrive. We put the lines out, we go straight to fishing usually. Um, Usually we're fishing waters that have a lot of trophy fish of all species, including buffalo, common carp, grass carp, even some very special mirror carp that we get occasionally. And I pride myself in fishing for big fish. I love putting people on their PBs, and that's what I'm here to do. So I've been guiding about 12 years now. This year has been off to an incredible start. I've had a really, really good run these past couple years since I moved to the Austin area, and I can only hope it continues.
So, Austin, you've been guiding in Texas for 12 years now?
Yes, so I started guiding right out of high school. I was doing some guided trips in college as well as doing my classes, and I was on the SFA bass fishing team. And then as soon as I graduated college, I started full-time guiding, and I haven't looked back since then. It's been really great. I'm really lucky to get to do what I do.
So, but I wanted to correct you on something because you see, we're not starting this live stream correctly. When you're saying that you basically, I just come in with my clients, I go over there, I set them up, and we start fishing. That's not exactly how it is. Okay, let me clarify this from the client's perspective, how it was with me. That's not the first time we're fishing together, right? We fished a couple of
Yes.
years ago together at Decker, and this time at Ladybird. So no, everybody, that's not just how it happens. Okay, Austin is being too modest over here. Um, Everybody has their own style, and I speak with other friends who fished with Austin, right? So you can do basically as little or as much as you wish with Austin. Now, the spoiled brat that I am, when I go over there, and again, this goes without asking. Okay, this doesn't happen like this. Austin, uh, when he says he sets up the swim for you, he's cutting himself a little bit short by saying that he does literally everything. So let me paint you a picture. He picks me up from my hotel at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, sometimes earlier, sometimes a few minutes later, depending on the weather conditions and what we're planning to do. And then we drive over there. Okay, and I literally do not have to lift my finger. Okay, unless I want to, and he would never even ask for it. He holds everything to the swim and boom, 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 quick. Sets everything up like he's done it before. Okay. Only he knows how his truck is organized. Okay. I wouldn't even dare remove the one thing because then I'm afraid everything else will collapse. He's the only one that knows where everything is. But he does everything at the speed of light and so efficiently that somebody like me can be literally this lazy, just come in, um, swap couple of ideas. Obviously, I'll defer to Austin on everything he says regarding bait and where we're fishing at the end. But other than bouncing a couple of ideas and on hook baits, on bait and etc., um, he does literally everything. All I have to do is pick up the rod and fish. we're not even casting because we're using the bait boat. So we're gonna give a shout out to West Coast base boats because it kept us alive for a week over there.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the arms were God knows busy and heavy from lifting of all the fish that we were catching. The boat held up nicely. So Nick and West Coast, thanks so much. That definitely is working magic for Austin and for the clients. But yes, so you don't just go exactly and just we start fishing. You literally do everything. Like I sometimes wonder where's the energy coming from, unless it's from those 10 energy drinks that you drink.
Yeah, I definitely prefer to have it completely set up, organized, and ready to go, all for my clients just to reel in the big one.
And real big ones they do. So let me ask you this: 12 years. That's a long time. So how do you first get into a job like this, guiding? How does it all begin? How was that idea born, and then how did you turn it into a business?
So I decided at a very, very young age that being a fishing guide was probably my dream job. I think at 7 years old, I decided, hey, this seems really cool. I want to be a fishing guide. I had gone on my first guided trip for stripers, and I saw what he did, how he took care of his clients, and I thought that I want to be there someday. Now, my carp and buffalo guiding really got started from someone named Richard Somerville. If it wasn't for Richard, I would never be here. He taught me basically everything I know about carp fishing, as well as some other really good friends of mine. But Richard was one of the first buffalo fishing guides in Texas, and he really taught me everything I needed to know to guide for these fish. He made it look so cool. He put people on giant fish all the time. And when he passed away, I decided I wanted to carry the torch and continue doing what he did.
So that's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing that for sure.
Absolutely.
You're fucking good at what you do. Okay, that's just what it is. Um, what are your favorite waters in Texas that you do guiding on?
I would say my favorite place in the entire world for the buffalo is Decker Lake. It's unbelievable how many big buffalo are in there. Actually, Rafal and I on this trip planned to fish Decker Lake, but unfortunately, the fishing just wasn't turning on. I had just done a guided trip there. Fishing was really, really tough. So we decided to fish Ladybird instead. Ladybird is one of my favorite waters in the state. Great carp fishing, probably our biggest common carp. And it's also the water that made me famous when I caught my 7110 buffalo. Now, those 2 lakes are my main 2 lakes for guiding. I also do guided trips on Lake Austin, Lake Travis, Lake LBJ, and then Toledo Bend and Rayburn, which you have to experience those 2 in your lifetime. Those are some unbelievable big lakes, huge expanses of water. You're fishing, you can see 10 miles across the lake. There's nothing like it. But as far as catching these big fish and consistently getting my clients on big fish, there's no better lake than Decker.
Well, I experienced that care. What was it? 2, 3 years ago? 2, 3 years ago, something like that. Yeah, look, I came that time with my wife only for 3 days, and we caught one monster that was 63.8, and then we caught a couple of 40s as well. We didn't have any
Yes.
50s. We just skipped straight to 60s at that point, and we fish in the crappiest conditions that I fished in a while. It was windy as hell. It was cold as you know what. It was awful, and the fish were biting. But look, fish sometimes can switch on and off. The surprising thing was that we had a lot of friends that were fishing. I don't know, maybe half a mile away, for some time, and they were really having a rough time. I almost felt bad at one point when we started catching, on a short notice when I came in at your spot. but not far away from us, people were having a rough time catching. Remember?
Yes, definitely. That lake had been shut down for a few months because we had a really big cold front. Water temperatures took a plummet and they just stopped biting. And we were really fortunate to catch what we did on that trip.
Like Cody is reminding you, don't forget about Lake Fork, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, Fork is a tough one, but where I got my bass fishing start, so it's always going to be a special place in my heart.
Oh, that's right. You see, I mentioned that at the beginning, but bass fishing, guiding for bass is also a big part of your business, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have several bass guided trips this week. So I'm actually going to be switching gears from the buffalo as much as I hate to because the fishing's awesome right now. But I'm going to go bass fishing and try to get some clients on some big fish.
So let's talk about that more a little bit later because actually, I was already thinking one of the next trips that I was thinking of right now. I'm just theorizing over here, but definitely want to go back to Texas and do another trip with you. But I'm tempted to do the next one for bass fishing.
Yes. Yeah, I could take you. We could go to some of those lakes that have some giants, get you one of them 10-pounders.
As in 10 pounders. I think, listen, I'm such an avid bass angler that I think my biggest one is probably about 2.5, 3 pounds. Okay.
Oh, wow.
From the lake house while I'm fishing for carp, I'm just tossing it over there. So I think a 3 pound smallie and probably a 3 pound, largemouth, probably up there as far as, as far as it goes for me. So it shouldn't be very
Absolutely.
hard.
Yeah, we can get you on a big old 7 or 8 pounder pretty easy.
That would be sweet. Listen, we got a question in the meantime. Scott is asking, how big do the commons and mirrors get out there?
So the common carp record here in Texas is 46 pounds. There's been a few bigger ones caught, but they weren't certified as the record. But I would say that a 50 is potentially out there and able to be caught by someone. I don't know what year it's going to come. Ladybird's fishing really healthy right now, so if a 50 came out, I wouldn't be surprised. As
So
far as the mirrors, 40s about tops. Mirrors are very, very, very rare here. Like 1 in 10,000 some lakes. The lake we were fishing Ladybird, there's only probably 4 or 5 mirrors in the entire, 1,000 acres of the lake. So they're
that's
rare,
1,000
but it's a
acres?
special treat. Yeah. Yeah, we were only fishing a very tiny part of Ladybird, but
Wow, I
there
didn't
it
know it
goes
was
like
that
7, eight
big.
miles. Yeah.
That's insane. I thought it was a little bit smaller. Well, quite a bit more
No, yeah, we
smaller.
were we were on the very bottom end of the lake, and it goes miles up in the other direction.
Wow. You know what? Let me do this. I'm going to switch the screen. For those who didn't see, I'm going to play them the video from the Ladybird so they can see how massive this is. Hold on. I'll switch it here and let me play this for them. So this is Ladybird. Like it's just a 2 minute long video to give you an idea for everybody to know where we were fishing. And at the end of the video, you're going to have a little view of the fish that we were catching. So look at this. Look how massive Ladybird Lake is. And that's Austin, Texas over there. I mean, at nighttime, this looks absolutely freaking phenomenal. But look at this. Look at that body of water. And you're going to see in a moment, we actually caught some carp feeding before we started fishing as we were scouting the places. We caught them feeding in the shallows, which was pretty cool. And look right over here. Going to zoom in on this. Look at this. So this I thought was easily a 30 plus, and this obviously a smaller ding, but I think this was a 30 to 35 pound carp probably over here. And this was so awesome to see. We used the drone to scout a couple of places before we decide where we're going to end up. And now look at this. We're going to show you one of our spots because we fished at more than one spot. That is us. Look at this. Ugh, going down that memory lane. So this was the 47.5 pound buffalo. This is a 30 plus. All of those carp are 30 plus. This grassy was 40 plus. More commons. 21-pound catfish. Another 30, I believe. This was definitely a 30 plus. I think that was the 32. The buff was 44, 45, something like that. More 30s. That's the beautiful mirror that we got. Oh my God, look at those apple slices. Look at that. More 30s. Look at those colors. So, I mean, this was freaking amazing. This was, that's basically the ladybird. And guess what? We caught a mirror.
Yeah, that was a very rare catch. I've only seen one mirror out of there previously in person. And apparently that fish is a very old one that's been caught a couple times by other anglers. It was caught during the ATC, man, like 2009 or something. And then the last time it came out, as far as I know, was like 2019. So it's been years since that fish has been seen, and it's so cool to see it again.
So I have a cool question here, Austin. I know I asked that. Isn't that where they find the dead bodies?
That is very true. Yes. Kitty Bird Lake is where they were suspecting a serial killer after over 30 bodies were found in that lake. And actually, one was found this week. So,
Oh, this week.
got to watch out when you're fishing out. Yes, literally, right after you left, they pulled a body out of that lake.
Okay, that is
So,
hilarious, not
you
hilarious.
kind of got to watch your back when you're fishing out there. Don't want to be there too long after dark, but during the day, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, when we were fishing over there, it was, gosh, in such a busy area. Um, it seems like, is there a university over there? Because we saw a bunch of students over there. I looked like student
Yes.
age kids and young adults jogging nonstop by the path right next to us.
Exactly. Yes. So the University of Texas is located here in Austin. And, that's a massive school. You got a lot of young people moving to this town that are around my age, working in all the high rises and stuff. And all of them go work out on that same trail. So that walking path is one of the busiest walking paths I've ever seen.
Yeah, so first few days we fished on that spot that you saw in the video, and the second part of the trip we fished about what is like a couple of hundred to 400 yards away. It wasn't that far, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty close. It was probably, 200, 300 yards apart were our baited areas. So it was effectively new water we were fishing, but it was a different spot.
And I'm glad we did because I thought, and I think this trip proves it, that fish are rather territorial. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think carp are more territorial than buffalo. Would you say, or not really? What's your
Absolutely.
experience?
Yes, I think the buffalo are territorial to a degree, but they do make a big migration usually in the springtime to go spawn. The carp, I think most of them hang out in the same couple mile stretch or maybe even a couple 100-yard stretch all year long. They spawn close in, on the same banks, and then they go right back out on those shell bars and feed.
See, I have a question from Scott. Scott is asking, do you fish, let's say personally, do you fish for the buffalo out of necessity, or do you prefer them over the commons and mirrors? Not with clients, for yourself.
I prefer the buffalo. The buffalo are the coolest fish to me. They're crafty, they're hard to catch. They fight really hard despite what a lot of people say. And, they get a lot larger. Our carp top out at 40 pounds. A 30-pound carp in Texas, anywhere in the state, is a big fish. We don't catch a lot of 30-pound carp every year. But, these buffalo I'm catching, I've caught 250s in the last 2 days. How can you not love a big fish like that? So I
Oh no,
prefer
they
to catch the
are.
buffs.
You know what? I noticed that the fight. Sometimes people ask me, and after this trip, I have a little bit better perspective. How do the buffs fight in comparison to the carp? Me, I caught less than a dozen buffs. In my life, most of them were with you. I had a dink at Seneca River. Um, they don't kite as much left and right as a carp can, but they will give me pound for pound a better fight under the rod tip because it seems to me
Definitely.
like fighting salmon on a fly rod that sometimes will just park on the bottom underneath the rapid and you just cannot lift it up. And I feel like I can maneuver carp a little bit better, which, by the way, carp to me, at least personally, moves way more than a buffalo does. It seems like that buffalo, when they park, they go into deep water. I typically then find out that it's a buff. At least that's what I'm guessing at that point because they just park themselves and I cannot move them. There's not much this kiting
Yeah.
left and right.
Definitely. So a lot of these buffalo, I usually wait till they are actually on there. I don't swing or set the hook or anything on them. And a lot of the time, you'll just pick up and they'll be dead heavyweight. And a lot of the
Yeah.
time, they'll start kiting toward you. You don't know if you have a fish on. You reel, 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 and catch up to them. But at some point during the fight, they usually feel like they're hooked. They start trying to get away. They'll start taking more line, more line. And the other thing that buffalo do is they like to do circles in the line. So you'll feel that line ping off their fin a lot. So nerve-wracking when that
That's
happens.
a heart attack move. I absolutely hate when they do that. Everybody knows this when you're fishing and the fish changes directions completely 180. The line will usually go on top of their fin, and you get that skip over it, where sometimes you just associate it with a hook pull. So momentarily you're just freezing, not sure if the fish is still on, and then bam, the rod bends again and it's on. But we had the second swim that we fished, that was even worse because not only the line was skipping over the fin when they making their circles, but for some reason it was mostly dropbacks. And even if it wasn't a dropback, the fish was bolting toward us most of the time. Whether it was buff or
Yes.
a common, it was like at the lake house where the channel is deeper, water is closer to us, and then we fishing in a little bit of shallows on those ridges, underwater ridges. And so there were times Austin knows I'm reeling, reeling, reeling. I'm like, yeah, I think there's nothing over there. It's just simply that the fish is swimming toward me faster than I'm reeling. And so even though we
Exactly.
were fishing at 150 yards out, the real fight was just the final 40 because the fish was mostly swimming toward us. So it was just 40 yards away when the real fight was beginning. So that was really cool. So look, it goes without saying that the last week's trips was incredibly productive. Okay. Even by my standards, and I've been spoiled at the lake house for the last several years, where we've been having, big fish after big fish and a run after run. By my standards, this was an incredibly productive trip and with big fish. From your perspective as a guide, what were the factors that made this fishing trip so successful?
Well, one, we really got lucky with the weather. The wind was blowing the same direction for pretty much all but one day of the trip, which was blowing all the fish kind of into our area. The other thing is we picked a really good swim. We weren't on the wind, so the crosswind we had the whole time wasn't really bothering us. We knew when we were getting bites. We did a lot of homework. Like the first day, we walked, man, like over a mile. I think we walked closer to 2 miles looking at every spot we could possibly look at, trying to figure out which one to fish. And poor Rafal had two ankle braces on the entire time. And, I'm like, come on, let's go check this spot. Let's go check this spot. Let's go check this spot. And we settled on a spot that was relatively easy to get our kit in, which was another thing. We could get our stuff, we could go back to the truck, get bait, come back. That was a really important thing. And then the other important thing was there's a lot of features out in front of us. I like having a lot of options to put rods on. You could put a close rod, you could fish right under the bushes, you can fish 200 yards out like I was when I caught my 71. So there were a lot of options in front of us, but one thing that really helped us was we dropped the underwater camera on my West Coast bait boat out there several times. And while we were kind of searching, we found this one little honey hole right in the middle of the swim that little did we know would produce about 95% of the bites for the entire week. We're off that one GPS waypoint we found on the underwater camera. And what it was a shell bar down there, and it came up really like suddenly, topped out at about 10 foot, and then there was a really sudden drop on the backside. And I actually wasn't dropping on the top of it, I was dropping on the slope that goes down.
Yes,
And
on
for
the on
some
the on the
reason,
opposite side.
yes, and for some reason, those fish, when they came up on that slope, they didn't come up either side. They came right up the middle. First thing they saw was our pop up.
So here's Brian Rand has interesting questions. Were you guys using the bait boat to locate the fish? Not directly, because, and I frankly never do that. I use the fish finder. I don't know about Austin. I'll answer that after me. I use the fish finder more as a depth finder and what the features are like underneath, rather than trusting it really where the fish are. Um, the way we did it here was that we were looking for features for some ridges underwater that we think the carp and the buffs might be in. And then, like Austin said, we used the bait boat to actually drop the underwater camera to see what the bottom is like, because Ladybird appeared way more silty than I thought I would have imagined. Right? I always associate this type of silty bottoms with those European venues. Okay, that I sometimes go to visit. Not often in US do I see a silty bottom like this. So finding a hard spot, actually with the feature like a little ridge that we were looking for, was very, very cool and interesting. And so yeah, to me it seemed like we were looking for features and the type of bottom, rather than specifically look for the fish itself, whether it's on the sonar or actually with the camera. Am I right or wrong?
You're 100% right. I am never going out in my bait boat just to look at fish on the sonar. The main thing I'm doing is looking at that bottom contour, seeing how far apart those lines are. Because if the lines get really far apart, on your bottom, it's going to show you that it's a really soft bottom. We don't want that. We want our rig to be presented on hard bottom. So you want those lines really tight together. You want that really good hard return. And the other thing, I'm using it as a depth finder, like Rafal said. We were dropping in anywhere between 10 and 25 feet of water, and we knew exactly where the depth was that we wanted to drop. So I was sitting there watching that bait boat. As soon as we encountered that depth, I would cut it off and we'd drop, because if you go 5 feet too far, you could be in that silt and you could never get a bite.
And this is exactly what was happening. So at the first spot that people saw in the video where we were fishing in the first half of the trip, there was one that the first day we baited up, we had maybe a bite or two. I lost one good, let's call it a good fish. I still think I maybe tighten up the drag too much. It's hard to tell hindsight, right? It could be as simple as the fish just not hooking itself right. So we'll blame it on Austin's rig. But it could be, that my drag was too tight, because we were fishing braid. I usually fish mono, right? So the point of adjustment for me, something new, is on a quick drag reel, normally when I pick up the rod, I like to tighten it up almost fully so I can really feel the fish, at least momentarily, to gauge what it is that I have on the other end. But my hand stays there so I can immediately loosen it when I see that pounce, right? That's often how I do it. With braid, you have much less time because there's no stretch to the braid between tightening it up and actually loosening it up. So after I lost that first fish, and that was, I think, literally my first fish and I lose it. I played it over and over in my head, and I said, you know what? So on a braid, I'm not going to do it like with mono. On a braid, which again I normally don't fish, what I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually tighten it up moving forward, rather than over tighten it and then loosen it, even if it's for a split second, right? Nobody fishes on a very tight drag on a braid, but I'm just referring to that split second at the beginning when you pick up the rod on a front drag reel, how much you tighten up at the beginning, followed by immediately loosening it up. So I changed that, and I had much better results. So again, I will never know, obviously, what was the reason that I lost the fish, but the fish was on probably for about 10 seconds, no more than that. So it was either me over tightening that drag on a braid, or it just didn't hook itself properly. Now, we went for fishing for buffalo was the initial idea. Okay, me flying that. I figured I can go after some bigger commons over here. But that being said, we had a nice spread of fish between buffaloes, carp, even the mirror, and some other unintended initially species. The big question is, and those commons were impressive because we have a ton of 30s. A ton of 30s. It was almost like fishing at the lake house. Like, oh, another 30. Oh, another 30. No dinks, really. Maybe we had like one or two dinks that I remember, but everything was like upper 20, 28, 29 pounds, 29 and change, or just 30, 31, 32 and up. My question is, so that was very impressive. How common is that type of mixed action at either the waters that you fish? Is Ladybird just known for this more than the others? But this was pretty cool.
Definitely. So Ladybird is known for that mixed bag. It's got buffalo, common carp, and grass carp in it, and you catch a combination of them throughout the day. Now, we actually got more buffs than I thought we would catch. There's only probably between 40 and 50 buffalo in that lake, and there's not very many that are smaller. So that 40-pound class is about normal. We got two mid to high 40s, which was really great to see. We also caught some small ones, which we had one of the smallest buffalo I've ever seen out of there, which is a great sign. That means they're spawning.
Yeah.
Um, as far as the 30s, man, you had probably the most incredible trip I've guided for big carp. I've had clients catch 2, 3 30s in a week, but I think we had 8, and then we had like 5 more that were 29 and change. So
Yeah.
it was a crazy, crazy week. One of the days we had like 19 or 20 bites. And we didn't land all those fish. We put 17 on the bank, but that was incredible. We were so beat by the end of that day. And it was a fully mixed bag. We even caught the lake record catfish during this session.
Oh,
So,
yeah. So hold on, because some people want to take away the points from me for catching that catfish.
oh, yes,
And
they do.
you know what? Usually, yes, I am not a big fan of channels. Okay, just because we get pestered by them so much over here. It's just like this total nuisance fish. Like level 100. But we got what we think is going to be the lake record for the channel. Let me switch over and play this camera to show you that when you go with Austin, okay, everything is bigger in Texas, including the channel catfish. Hold on, let me play this for you. It's just a 2-minute video, so you can see this monstrosity that we could look at this.
Tail pinched, it's 33 and a half, or 33 and a quarter.
My goodness.
With the tail straight, it's like 30 and a half to the fork. Crazy shoulders on it. Okay.
Let me see.
23 and a half inches right
That
there.
catfish has diabetes.
And we thought it was a buffalo.
Which you did.
To the
Zeroed out for sure.
21. Right at 21 pounds.
21 pounds. Okay.
Wow.
Beast mode. So this fish looks stupid big. And I mean, it is as fat as it gets. And yeah, you're right. We thought it was a buff because this thing was really heavy underwater and it was actually putting up a fight. It's not like the typical catfish where it's just like a, wet towel, you're dragging it through the water. No, this one put up a fight. At some point, it was a little bit confusing. I thought maybe a big grass carp. But no, this monstrosity, 21 pounds. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So this is what you get also when you're fishing in Texas. But you know what? Between this channel cat and the mirror, those were actually the two fish I'm going to remember for a long time. Buffs, yes, I had a big buff before, and it was always amazing to catch another one there. But that mirror that we had, I think somebody posted after seeing my post that it has a name, Zippy.
Yes, that Zippy, and apparently Zippy is a very old fish. Apparently over 25 years old. So really cool to see that one come out again. It looked immaculate. When we caught her, we had no idea that that fish had ever come out before. It was only after other anglers posted pictures in reply that we knew that that fish had a name and she'd been caught before. So that's Zippy.
No, it was crazy looking mirror. And Sam is asking, was the mirror caught in the same area? Yes, Sam. So we caught it in the very first spot that we fished for the first 3 days. The one that you see in the
Yeah,
video.
that waypoint that I found, that single waypoint, we had like 95% of the bites off. That mirror came off the same waypoint. And the
Right.
funny
So
thing is we had rods right and left of that by feet, sometimes even 2 feet. And it was always that middle rod.
Right. So this is the very interesting part of the entire experience. Nothing. It's not unusual. I've learned it. You learn those type of things when you're fishing the same spot or different spots for longer periods of time. So you have that data coming to your head. But yeah, we had several rods. Two of them. Normally, when I fish and I have good success on one spot, on one rod, I like to put, unless it's crazy busy, 2 rods at least in the same spot. Like literally feet apart. And feet apart, I mean 6 to 10 feet apart. That's what I like to do, but on different hook baits. So this time, and this is how tricky it can be sometimes. Like Austin said, we had those bites on that one rod. And then we have the second rod that I asked that we put on the same spot, like several feet away, but it was not exactly on the same hard spot, perhaps. And shit, we were not getting bites. It was still just that one rod going ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
We started making some correlations then slowly. When it comes to baits, for example. So we were chumming, obviously, with some corn. I think some cubes over there. We were topping it off with some boilies and some liquids. But some baits would not be touched during that trip, right? So I'll be the first one to say we tried one of the baits that didn't work for us there, but worked for me, for example, at the lake house immensely well, was the mulberry pop-up. That hot pink mulberry pop-up. and it was just not doing it. But on the other hand, we tried PB mussel pop-up, and this thing was just fire. Most of the
Yeah,
fish were just going stupid.
yeah, I've never seen a bait play like that where they literally they wouldn't bite two pieces of plastic corn on the same exact rig, but they would bite that dang PB mussel pop-up. Those things are money. If you're gonna buy one thing from Rafal today, buy a pot of those dang pop-ups. I will never go to the lake without them. I use all kinds of baits. I have people show up with all kinds of baits. That's probably the best pop-up I've seen as far as fish catching.
And you know, we're telling you the truth because I'm telling you about my own other bait that normally works very well in other places, mulberry pop-up, which is also done with Forgotten Flavors and Carp Angler. It's the collab that we did. They would not touch it. You know, they would not touch
Yeah,
it. But the PB mussel, most of the bites were just coming like this, one after another. It was on the PB mussel. Hold on, I'll drop you people the link for it. So you have it. PB mussel if you want a busy afternoon at the lake. I dropped you the link over there. So we noticed that PB mussel pop-up was killing it. We had some other bait that was also in yellow. It was not the same result, but PB mussel was just going stupid. But then look at this. This was interesting. So then we know that one rod is going off like crazy. Okay, so we're not changing that. PB mussel stays on that for good. So we started experimenting with some others. And what we noticed that while mulberry pop-up was not working for us, what was working was mulberry hard hook bait. Okay, those were working. Go figure. Maybe because obviously it's not the same. This is a hard hook bait, so it's a bottom bait, and that's the one that leaches like crazy. And for some reason, they were biting on that.
yes, they wanted that yellow on there. So a lot of what we were doing was taking that mulberry hard hook bait, taking either half of a PB mussel pop-up, got them right here, um, either half of that or half of one of the grains of sinking corn. The sinking corn I would glug in a pineapple flavor. That's always my favorite. So same flavor pretty much, but as long as it had that yellow topper, that mulberry hard hook bait was killer. Those things, when you put them on your hair, they dye your hands and it won't come
They
off
do.
for at least a week. Like you can smell it on your fingers if you touch your clothes, it stains. So be careful with them. But the amount of stuff that comes out when you put it in the water is unbelievable. They're leaching and leaching and leaching. Even if you take the rig out, pack up, go home, come back the next day, put the same hook bait in, it's going to continue leaching stuff out of it, which is impressive to say the least.
It was. And interesting question here. Scott is saying, how do tiger nuts do with buff? So I'm going to, Austin, answer the second part of this question. I'll tell you during this trip, PB mussel was the weapon of choice. We did use some of the tigers for fishing. I forget which fish we caught, but we caught some on, this was pretty cool, black tiger nuts you had. What was it?
Yeah, so those are the Proline Black
It
Raspberry
was from
Tiger Nut.
Keith.
Yeah, those are
Oh,
a crazy
tell us
secret.
again in case somebody wants to get it. Those were from Proline, from Proline
Yeah,
Baits.
Proline baits. They've got a whole series of black tiger nuts. They've got a couple different ones. They've got black currant. They've got some fishy ones. They have that black raspberry, but I do the best on the black raspberry. I think those are fantastic. Regular tiger nuts work really good too, but I like the black because they look like a clam or a mussel on the bottom. You get that color contrast if you put them with a piece of white fake corn. And, two of those black tiger nuts, one white fake corn is a killer anywhere you go in Texas.
So I have to say, like at first I look at those black and it was something new because most of us tend not to fish with black baits. We probably think that it's not contrasting enough on the bottom. But if you
Definitely.
think about it, snails,
Yeah,
snails.
there's a lot of things that are black down there on the bottom. And another thing is it provides a lot of contrast. I think buffalo feed, their eyes pick up on contrast a lot. So when they see those tigers on the bottom, especially you got to think about at night, low light conditions, maybe it's really cloudy or rainy, they're going to see that black before they see really anything else. So I like the black a lot. Another edge we use is the night glow. The buffalo
Yeah.
really like the night glow. So we'll top those black tigers off with that night glow plastic corn. And some of my biggest buffalo have been at night with that night glow and with those black tiger nuts.
So it's funny you say that. So the black tiger nuts, I have to maybe bring some from Keith for the store,
Definitely.
so we can sell them also at Carp Angler. The night glow corn, you are right. So I was skeptical until like a year and a half ago. I'm going to post a link to the night glow corn that we have, and we have them in multiple colors. Okay, so I just dropped the link to it. White one is what I had the most success on, whether it's actually
Yeah,
in US at the lake house or at the river or in Europe. I usually take a hard hook bait in 20 or 28 and I top it off with that. And I did have great success on that. Initially, I was skeptical, but shoot, after catching a couple of monsters, you start coming around. Um,
definitely.
so it's definitely working. Oh, good question we have, Brian. So I'll leave this one for Austin. What rig were you guys using with pop-ups, and what rig with boilies?
So that's a really good question because Rafal and I actually played with that quite a bit. We were trying to find the most effective rig for that pop up based on what height they wanted it off the bottom. With what we started with, we were actually losing a couple of fish. So what we ended up settling on pretty much is a Ronnie rig. And what I was using was a really stiff boom section, like, 5 inches long or so. Move over here so y'all can see me. About, a short boom, but a sinker on the boom, and then a ring swivel that goes through the eye of the hook. I would tie the bait to a micro ring swivel on the hook and put a stopper on there. And I would just tie my baits on with bait floss. Sometimes we would top it off with a piece of plastic corn. Sometimes we would just fish it just the pop up. But it would sit, about that far off the bottom. I think that's about perfect. And then we were dropping a lot of corn on top of the area with the bait boat. I think that's why they were keyed in on that yellow. Now, as far as the boilies, my bottom bait rig is pretty much the same for all my bottom baits. Fish a lot of tiger nuts. I fish a lot of boilies. This time of year, boilies are killer, so that's what I usually use. If the catfish are bad, that's when I start using the tigers. The tigers are still a fantastic bait. I mean, I caught my 7110 on tiger nuts, so hard to ignore those as a hook bait. But as far as the rig I use on all that stuff, it's the same rig. I have it right here. It is a um just a
Yeah,
regular hair rig, bottom bait rig. I've started on this section where you would usually put tubing or a ring. I've started just doing a whipping knot because I go
okay,
through so many fish. I go through rigs nonstop with the catfish. The first thing they're going to do is tear that piece of
that's
silicone
right.
tubing off. So I like to just whip it to the back of the hook, so it changes the angle, makes that hook point drop down. I don't use a very long hair. You can see these tigers are on there. It's kind of a little bit too long of a hair on this rig for the tigers. I'm having trouble keeping it on the screen. Thank you, Rafal. Um, I do this way because I like to put the Proline Baits paste over the top of my tiger nuts.
Yeah.
Now, if I was fishing a boilie, I would have a little bit less of a gap here. And then I have a line aligner at the top. You can see this is one of the Carp Angler line aligners that looks like a little bug. I really like them. They look good. They kind of conceal your hook a little bit. So that's what I've been using as my bottom baits.
So my question is, when you everybody has their methods. I sometimes switch them up. When I put the paste around the hook baits. When I have it topped off with corn, I started actually leaving the topper uncovered by the paste. I'm covering everything else except the topper, which is usually the fake corn that I have on top. Do you cover everything? Do you leave it uncovered on the top? What's the method?
So it really depends. A lot of the time when I drop with the bait boat, I'll actually cover my lead and the hook bait just to give a lot of scent out and, release a lot of stuff into the water column. As far as the tiger nuts, I usually cover the whole thing, all the way around the tiger. Um, I do really like that idea you gave me to leave the corn out and just cover the tigers because you get that contrast. Like I was saying, the contrast is really big for the buffalo. Having that yellow on top of the paste ball that's leaking and oozing flavor can't be hurting you. And it's going to stay on there. It's really sticky stuff. I have some of the paste here. You can see this is the sweet strawberry paste.
Yep. Yeah, that
Camera keeps
paste
not
always
focusing on me.
works.
There we
That
go.
paste
Yeah.
always works.
It is
Always
just
works.
killer,
I
absolutely killer.
I actually sent
It's
the order
really soft.
to Keith today to replenish on the strawberry one because I noticed that we ran out. But yeah, paste is always working, and you know what?
Yeah, so just like this is what Rafal's talking about. You
Yes,
can see I put the paste on the hook bait, but it's not on that corn. So they can see that
yeah.
corn, it's bright, but it still has that paste, you know,
You got the
oozing out
visual
flavor.
and you got the sensory.
Exactly.
I freaking love this. Paste is king. To my surprise, most of the people still put the paste on the lead. I don't mind if you put it on the lead, but to me, the most important place is on the hook bait. Now, I noticed from experience that um, when I put it on a dry hook bait, that thing sticks. On a wet one, I
Stays
have to
on.
cover the whole thing, or I have to dry it up with my shirt quickly to make it stick even better. That's my thing. Now,
Definitely.
I hate doing this with those hard hook baits that we're using because they are so dirty that if you wipe it with your shirt, goodbye shirt. Um,
Yes.
but you know what? I don't even. I mean, there's technically not much need to even cover the hard hook bait that leaks that much with a paste, but maybe for the texture.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when that goes in the water, it gets much softer. And when the carp feel that with their mouth, it's not going to feel like a hard, ball. It's going to feel just like soft and natural, just like the stuff they're normally feeding on.
Yeah, I always think that all things being equal, if carp had a preference, they would go for the softer baits because there's just less work with it.
Definitely.
But that being said, they will take rock hard tiger knots, hard hook baits, and anything because they have those molar looking teeth, in the deep in their throat, so they'll crush them anyway, and it's just gonna go through the
Exactly.
digestive system anyway.
And I mean, they're eating clams. The buffaloes, one of their main foods is clams, and they're eating and crushing those up. So, no boilie is ever going to be as hard as those clam shells they're crushing.
Or zebra mussels, etc. That's right. Um,
Exactly.
Austin, you're guiding a lot. What are some of the biggest fish you guided anglers to over the years? And what
Man.
are some of the most memorable ones? I know you had some monsters.
Yeah. So the biggest buffalo I've guided, we were chasing IGFA records and Art Weston caught it. He's really well renowned for catching some big fish on very light line. In this particular instance, we weren't using very light line, but he hooked this fish and we knew it was in a caliber of its own. It ended up weighing 68 pounds. That's the biggest buffalo I've had a client catch. It was a monster. I thought it was bigger than my 70 when we got it in the net, so I was really, really, really nervous when we dropped it onto the scale. Big fish. That mirror Rafal caught, that's the biggest mirror I've guided. So that
Oh
was
wow.
definitely a memorable one. And then I've had some really nice common carp captures over the years, but what always stands out to me is those 60 plus buffalo. I've guided clients onto about 10 of them now, and we just had one this past year. Haven't got one yet this year, but I'm just looking forward to the next 60. I think a 60-pound buffalo is about one of the coolest and rarest creatures you can see in Texas waters. They're really hard to catch, and I just can't wait to see the next one.
By the way, don't laugh at my cup. Tell me you have kids without telling me you have
Oh
kids.
my
This is
God.
this is you know what? Not very carpy, but that's what I have today. Mm, Austin,
The
so
Barbie cup.
you're catching all of those monsters. Like the week we fished, we really saw a lot of activity. We saw a lot of carp breaching. Then, like the video show, we even caught some of them feeding in the shallows. So we kind of knew what was going on. And the conditions are changing in Texas. Shit, more frequently than anywhere else. It's like that saying that you said that you guys have. If you don't like the weather in Texas, give it 5 minutes, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's gonna be different.
if the
One of the
conditions are
days we had, it was
if they
crazy.
changing
What,
that
it was
fast,
5 times?
how do you change the approach for the clients and for yourself fishing over there when the conditions are literally changing at the snap of a finger?
Yeah, it's hard. You gotta really just concentrate on where your best chances are. That's what we did this week. I had come off of a 5-day guided trip. Rafal showed up the next day. I decided to completely scrap the plans we had for this whole session because of our results. We had gone to Decker, blanked 2 days in a row, went to Lake Austin, only caught one fish all day. So, what option do I have but to try to get my clients on some fish? I went to an area that I thought they would be in because of the wind direction. And the first day when we got there, we knew the fish were in the area. They were crashing out there. They weren't really crashing on our spot, but they were crashing all around. But we really got lucky with the weather conditions because we only really had to deal with one day where it was cold. It was getting progressively warmer and warmer every day. They were pushing closer and closer to spawn. And I think actually what happened is we hit that last wave that were feeding up really heavy right before they went to spawn. And later in the week, we just started catching less and less because the fish went up to try to spawn. Now, I'm really, really glad that you came when you did because everything's changed. The conditions have gotten terrible. Right now, outside my window, it's blowing 50 miles an hour. We got a cold front coming in tonight. It's going to be 34 degrees in the morning, and it's going to be cold the rest of the week. So, it's gonna totally change everything, gonna push the buffalo off the spawn, probably gonna mess things up for a couple of days. But having the best conditions that we had, we just got really lucky.
Well, so you said like, oh, the bites slow down. So when Austin is saying that the bites slow down, we went from 20 bites in a 12-hour session or so to, like, I remember the next day was like 14, 15 that we had. And when
Yeah.
finally conditions change and the bites so-called slow down, okay, we still caught 40 plus buffalo and some 30 plus carp. So yeah, the bite slows down, but we are comparing it to an absolutely stupid sessions, one after another.
Yeah.
20 bites,
Seriously.
15 bites, and most of those were 30-pound fish.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing. I was like, "That's another 30. Do you want a picture?" And Rafal's like, "No." I'm like, "Come on, it's a Texas 30. That's a rare thing." And, I finally got him to take a photo of it, but the only condition was he wouldn't take a photo unless it was a 30-pounder. So, most of those photos you saw, they're all 30-pounders because I couldn't get him to take a picture of a 29 14, you know?
So
So,
spoiled
yeah, we had
rotten.
a great session.
Spoiled rotten was is I think the right term, but you have to understand we from the morning until the nighttime, 20 bites. Okay. Practically all of them either close to 50-pound buffalo, like 47, 45, or 30-pound carp. or 40-pound plus grassers. Okay, so
Yes.
you spend so much freaking time hauling those fish in. And that first spot that we showed you in the video, it was not the easiest because that one you had to get actually in the water to fight it because of this overhanging tree branches, like this weeping tree hanging over there. That a 12-foot rod, when I am about knees deep in the water and I cannot go any further because it drops immediately down, I had to extend my arms completely with the rod. And then the rod tip was just in front of all of those trees. We still lost a fish or two over there that it went into snag, but that was the name of the game. So it was not easy to land the fish over there. So after doing, 10, 15, 20 of those, at some point it's just like, okay, I mean, I'm getting a little bit, tired, but before I can finish the sentence, boom, another 30 on the line. Um,
Exactly.
we were definitely spoiled rotten for practically the whole week. Even those so-called slower days were still stupid. Okay, we were still
Yeah.
catching. And so I know that, Texas is becoming very known for producing those, some very massive fish. Uh, what makes those Texas waters so special to comparing to most of the other places in US?
So our Texas waters are really healthy. They maintain them very well for the bass fishing. I think the fact that the bass fishing is really good in turn helps the carp fishing because you have a lot of predators. You don't have the carp getting overpopulated, so there's too many of them. The water quality is really good. And the other thing about Texas is we have a super long growing season. The fish are basically eating all year. There's no part of the year that they're not eating. So they're always growing and getting bigger, which definitely helps us. Now, in the summertime, it's really, really hot. They go super deep. They're hard to catch. But as far as eating and getting bigger and growing, their metabolism is so fast, they have to eat. So it makes them eat more and more and more, makes those buffalo bigger. Seems to be the right climate for the buffalo because we have some of the biggest buffalo anywhere in the US here in Austin, Texas. And we're pretty far south compared to a lot of parts of Texas. So I think that long growing season is probably the biggest factor in why these fish get so big.
No, that makes sense. It's basically like a fish farm, natural fish farm. That doesn't deal with the
Yeah,
seasons. It's just chow time all the time.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
um,
the thing about these buffalo is, common carp, when it gets really hot outside, a lot of the time they come off the bottom, they don't eat a whole lot. They'll just kind of cruise around. That's when you catch them on a zig. These buffalo, they don't care if the water's 105 degrees. They're still eating. They're still going down there 25, 30 feet of water and eating. They don't have to have as much oxygen as the carp do. So they're just growing all the time. They're getting bigger. And they also eat a lot of bait when it's in the summertime and it's really hot like that. So I think us anglers are actually contributing to them getting bigger as well. Because, this fishing for this buffalo, it's becoming very popular. And we've got a lot of guys around here that are feeding them. I like to see other anglers. I like to see people feeding the fish. I like to see people taking care of the fish just so we can release them and they can get even bigger.
it's been absolutely insane over there. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying about the buffs. They can, genetically they are, predisposed better to handle lower oxygen levels in the water. So, when it gets hot, for example, carp sometimes will, look for better spots. Buffs don't have to necessarily. So as long as the food source is
Exactly.
over there, they're going to stick around. To answer Tony's question, how many 30s did we get? It seemed like three. No, I think we had close to 10, 8, 9, maybe 10. I don't know. We had a handful of 30s, right, during the trip.
Yeah, I want to say we had eight. And that one that I waded up to my chest and the water went over my waders and then the fish got off, that one was like well over 30. That was like a 34, 35 that we lost. And
Yes.
it was, I had the net here, fish was a foot away and it still came off. So what can you do? But and then we had two that were like 2 ounces shy of 30.
Right.
So,
One
you
lead
know,
away.
exactly. No, don't catch me doing that. That's not me for sure. Unlike some bass anglers that were caught in Texas this week putting some
I
weights in
was
some
I was
fish.
reading something when I was, I think, either on the airplane or right after I came back. I think I tagged you in it. There was already drama over it, and I'm like, don't
Oh
they
yeah.
learn? Don't they learn?
No, they'll never learn. They busted someone last year for the same exact thing in Texas at a different
And
tournament.
that's aside
But this
from
was
those
a
guys
big
that were
tournament.
brought, into the news and everything a few years ago with all those lads, right?
Exactly.
Oh my
Yeah, and it's a
God.
very similar situation. This guy had won a lot of tournaments and he'd taken a lot of people's money. I fished against this guy and, just crazy to see.
So if you lost now, maybe you know why.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that is freaking crazy. Raphael is asking, any recaptures on the buff? Well, I know at least of one between you and Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lady Bird Lake has this one buffalo. I've named her Star. That buffalo is the biggest fish in the lake. There's no other buffalo that are anywhere near the same size. There's like 160, and then that one is right now I could guess between 74 and 75. That fish has been caught 8 times that I know of. I've caught it. My really good friend Jacob Chappa's caught it. Another one of my really good friends, James King, has also caught the same fish. Another good friend of mine, Cassidy Douglas, has also caught the same fish. I've traced 8 captures over the years. So that's a very old fish. I don't know if we said this before, but buffalo can live to be over 100 years old.
Yeah.
So this fish is still healthy. It's old. We don't know how old, you can only guess that it's probably over 40 years old because way back, the first time I personally saw this fish caught was during the ATC, which was like, I think it was 2018 or 2017. This same buffalo got caught and it was over 60 pounds way back then. That was 10 years ago. Now it's over 70 pounds. So that
Who
was a
had
big
it?
fish back then. It's only going to get bigger.
What were the weights of that fish when Jacob caught it and when you caught it?
So when I caught it, it was 71.10, 44.5 inches long. When Jacob caught it, it was 72.6. So like a pound and a couple of ounces bigger. And I think the main reason it was heavier when Jacob caught it was I caught it in July. Jacob caught it in March. So it was pre spawn. But you have to wonder if a big giant fish like that still spawns. So could have been egg weight, could have just been the fish growing, but it's amazing to see that fish is still healthy and getting bigger. Now, we do know that that fish is still in the lake because Rafal saw the fish. He saw her crash. We got eyes on it. We know she's still there. So we didn't catch her this time, but hopefully next time we'll catch her.
But you know what? The cool thing is, I was stupid excited just seeing the fish. Look, I knew
Yeah.
coming in there, it's gonna be a chance like one in a million to catch it. But we saw, looking at the water, we saw a lot of buffs and carp crush. You know, sometimes it was literally that I am looking at a perfect spot and the fish breaches right over there. And I said this to Austin, unlike with carp, it is so easy to spot a buffalo breaching and crashing because when they did it when they did it when I was looking, they breached like a dolphin. That they were not crashing
Yes.
sideways for me. They were literally going like a dolphin, with a full body out and boom, back inside, nose first. That was the coolest thing. And when this fish breached, I was just looking there. It was one of the several fish that I saw during the entire week perfectly breached. Not the only one of few. And you slowly start realizing the sizes of those fish. And it was dark. That buff was dark. And the one that you and Jacob, the star, caught and I saw in the picture was dark just like that. It was a massive buff that
Very
breached.
dark.
So I saw her. I didn't catch her, but
Yeah,
I saw her. You know. By the way,
yeah. She was
Jacob,
on our swim too.
Jacob
She was right
Chapa.
on it.
Let's give Jacob a shout out. Uh, Jacob is the
Definitely.
gentleman that still owes me a couple of pictures. You know. Jacob, a couple of years ago, when we were fishing with Austin at Decker for the Buffs, and I happened to catch my PB over there with Austin 63.8. And Jacob was kind enough to come with his extremely fancy camera to take some very, very memorable pictures of the fish for me, since it's like a fish of a lifetime. A 60 plus buff. Only to find out later, Jacob didn't put the film in the camera correctly.
No.
The word on the street is that it was an accident. We're going to give him some benefit of the doubt over here, but I think the only point of redemption can be me catching a 70, and then he actually takes the pictures in the future.
That's right.
But listen,
That's
he's
right.
forgiven because he brought the beers that time to the swim. And I had
That's
to get
right.
all wet in a cold weather. I was shivering over there. I got all wet in like 40-degree water. So we'll forgive Jacob while we're waiting for the new set of pictures next time on Cam.
Yes.
That was hilarious. Let
Yeah, we
me.
can't let him live that down.
No, that's going to stick until I catch another 60 or a 70 and he actually comes with the camera. But Jacob, other than that, we love you. Um, Austin, question from the crowd. When we were talking about
Sure.
the rigs, why not go with a PVA mesh instead of paste? For me, it's laziness. How about you?
Well, the main thing is I'm dropping with the bait boat, and that PVA would melt because I'm putting corn, I'm putting all sorts of liquids in the bait boat and taking it out there. So I don't think the PVA would even make it to the bottom. I'd have to double bag it or use a solid bag, and I would have to like be careful and not get the corn on it because the corn's wet. So most of the time I actually use pack bait more than I use paste. And I'll make just a plain oats pack bait. I'll use some crumbed boilies inside the pack bait, make up a big ball. That way it stays on my lead and I don't have to worry about, fiddling with a PVA bag and tying 20 of them in advance to the session. Another thing is we have a lot of nuisance fish. There's a lot of shad and, catfish, other small fish. And that PVA, I'm sure with those little dry particles, one shad or one catfish goes by, it's going to throw that stuff all over the place. Whereas that paste, infinite number of fish could swim by. That paste is still going to be stuck to the lead. It's still going to be attracting them to that area right around your hook bait instead of a 5 foot circle from your hook bait. So the paste is just a great choice. It's full of attractors. It has color leaching out of it. It's got scent they can hone in on. I think the paste is just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, the big thing is that, yeah, we are boating things out because we are most of the time fishing at a big distance of 150 now. Now that we cannot cast probably there, but it would be just ridiculous. We were talking about it
Yeah,
that sometimes when we would have to empty a bucket at that distance at the World Championships, that is just grueling task, and not just casting but baiting and spotting. So when you have a bait boat that you can use,
definitely.
it's just so much easier. I listen. Pot of least resistance is the name of the game for me. You know, whether it's the way we fish or, hey, going guiding with Austin, again, path of least resistance, Austin does most of the stuff. I get the glory just for catching the fish. He
Yes.
does all the work really that 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 is important for catching the fish. I take the photo. you know,
Yes.
that's
Exactly.
that's the way I look at your guiding service. You know why I'm looking forward to it when I'm coming? And again, I've done this before with you because to me, this is if I want to just basically grind. God knows I lived on the lake in Connecticut for literally months on end, just catching that previous state record that Norbert just probably laughs at when he sees that today.
Yeah.
Um, but I do that if I want to grind, right? I don't need to prove to myself anymore that I can do it for a week straight grinding. That's not why I'm going there. I'm going there for two reasons. One, it's like a vacation where you go on a party boat just to catch some fish, but the captain takes you everywhere and does everything for you, even though you could do it yourself. So that's number one. So I know I can just do the most enjoyable part of the fishing without all the stuff that I don't like. Now, some people, for example, love tying rigs, right? Me,
Yeah.
I hate this. I tie my rigs at home during winter time when I'm bored. I can tie 100 of them or 200 of them, and I have enough for the season before the season begins. I absolutely hate doing this on the bank. Just like tying knots in general. Like I'm the guy that can tie virtually any knot that there is, as I should, but I hate doing this. So, for example, catch me on the water tying an FG knot. Okay, there will be a lot of
Exactly.
profanity that is accompanied by that knot being tied. So I will usually tie some other more lazy knots, but I will leave the FG for when I really have patience for it, or if it really matters that much. But this is the reason why I go over there and I use Austin's service. I mean, you literally, when Austin unloads the truck and gets it to the swim, he will literally open the chair for you. You can sit your ass down, and without feeling bad, you can just enjoy the nature. Wait for that rod pot to get open, for everything to get set up. And then, if you feel like giving an input, but again, I warn people about giving an input to not just Austin, but in general when you're being guided. Ask. Don't impose, because remember, this is what he does for a living, right? So if he tells you, I would go with this and that, there's a reason for it. Go with this and that. I made sure that I ask instead of tell him what to use. Because again, he does this for a living. He knows those places like the back of his pocket. He knows the names of the goddamn fish that we're fishing for. So he
Yes.
has a relationship with the place and with the fish. He's simply there to take the guesswork out. So I don't have to think about it. So it's literally fishing like in an outdoor resort where you don't have to do squat unless you want to. I remember I spoke with some of your other guests from the past, and I guess that was their first time fishing with you, and it was the same thing. Like, shit, I almost felt uncomfortable that I wasn't doing anything, um, but it felt so good. But it felt so good. I'm telling you, Austin, this is the best. To me and some of the friends that I speak with that fished with you, this is the biggest selling point. You go over there and you just do the enjoyable part of the fishing and nothing else. And
Exactly.
for whatever freaking reason, it makes me almost hate this guy. He doesn't even get tired doing this. I'm like, I know I'm a little bit older than him, but I'm like, what the fuck? Like, get tired at some point, make me feel better about myself, but no, dude, he's doing everything. I mean, you are insane in the way you work, how hard you work, and how fast you work. Like, what the hell?
I do it all the time. I know exactly what needs to be done and when. I'm big about having 100% confidence in everything of my equipment. So before you even come fishing with me, I've tested everything. I've tied my knots. I've tied my rigs. Everything's good. Hook baits on the rods. We're pretty much ready to fish. And when I take those rigs out with the bait boat, I want to be 100% happy before I drop that hopper every single time. I'm not going to put a rig out there that I don't think is going to catch a giant. And that's, if I was being guided, that's the mentality I would want the guide to give to me. So that's what I want to provide. And I mean, I give my all from the beginning of the day when I open the truck door, start putting the barrow together, to when I finally walk in the door exhausted, rip my waders off, and start making corn at the end of the day. I'm always doing something with this fishing. It's not just because it's my job, it's my life. I just enjoy it. This is what I do. This is my dream job, and
it,
it's a
it
lot of work,
shows.
but I think it's worth it.
It shows because I remember talking with my wife about this before I went over there. I busted my ankle a little bit, so at some point I was doubting if I can go, and then she said it, and she was there when we fished last time together, and my wife said, like, what are you talking about? It's Austin, he's gonna do literally everything for you. And then I paused. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I literally I don't have to do any more over there than I'm doing here when I go to the kitchen to get some soda. It's literally
Exactly.
like that. And I don't know how much it matters to a lot of people. It does when I speak to a couple of friends, like I mentioned earlier, but shit, that is the best part of it. I don't have to pack, I don't have to unpack. I can go over there, like I'm totally disabled, which, by the way, Austin, you have some experience even taking disabled, people fishing with you, right?
Absolutely. I have a few clients that can't get out of a wheelchair and they're still catching giants. They're catching 50 and 60 pounders with me. So, absolutely anybody can do this. I guide kids all the time. I'll have a 10-year-old with that 12-foot rod, stuck in between their legs because they can't hold it, and they'll still reel in a 40-pounder. So, really anybody can do it. But it just makes the trip that much better when you can sit back, enjoy the fishing. You don't have to stress over anything. Imagine if you had brought your tackle and the airport lost it or something like that. I provide everything. So you
Good
don't even
point.
have to bring your rig stuff, reels, alarms. I got all that stuff.
That's right. Yeah. All I took with me is some clothes, some mud boots, obviously Crocs. I had them in the sports mode half of the time because we had
Yeah.
too many bites, and that was it. Um,
Yeah, you
Austin,
stocked me up on some hook baits, but you know that I already had all of those, so we were good to go.
I'm glad I brought the extra PB muscle with me because, like you said, we could have ran out at some point.
We would literally, I had like 3/4 of a jar, and on the first day, we went through so many pop-ups that I thought we were going to run out. And then
That
Rafal just
was
pulls a jar out of his pocket and saves the day.
that was stupid. I'm gonna drop the link for you guys again if anybody's interested in those PB muscles. I just dropped it for you, Austin. Best fish from the trip for you. The mirror, the buff, the catfish. What do you pick?
Well, there's two things I want to talk about here. I think if you had to say overall capture, best capture would be the mirror,
I
hands down.
agree.
But I want to highlight something else that we have not talked about yet. Rafal's bait, these PB mussel, are such a good bait that we caught the same exact fish 3 different times. So
In two
for the
different
same
swims.
fish, yes, in 2 different swims, we caught the same grass carp that had a bent back to it. It was a very distinctive fish. We caught that fish the first day, then we caught it again the third day, then we caught it again the fifth day. If that doesn't say something about how good this bait is, I don't know what's going to.
Well, it's either the bait or the guide or somewhere in between.
Yeah, that fish must know all of my spots because we caught it on three completely different baited areas.
That was funny. That really was. Speaking of the buffs, I have a good question for you, Austin.
Hit
Which
me.
place around Austin, Texas, would you recommend for buffalo for numbers, not necessarily big fish?
I have a few really good lakes that have a lot of numbers. I would say the best one would be Lake LBJ. LBJ is awesome. There's not a lot of bank access out there, but I do my guided trips for the light tackle and for like the women's and kids records out there. Average size is about 20, but man, we have 25, 30 fish days out there. It's a
Wow.
ton of fun. There's some nice buffalo. If you want to go out there, there's a lot of nice Airbnb properties and VRBO properties. So I would get on the apps and look, try to find something on that upper end where the river is. McNair Park is also a good one. Another good lake for the buffalo is Lake Travis. Lake Travis has a bunch of buffalo, a lot of carp too. You'll have big numbers days out there. And then the river is really good. If you fish the Colorado River, throw some bait in. There's a lot of great rental properties on the river as well. But if you bait a spot, those buffalo will come in so thick you won't believe it. So I would give those three waters a try.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Um,
Absolutely.
Question for you. For those who are thinking about booking a trip with you, what time of the year would you say offers the best chance at a truly special fish? Let's talk about buffalo specifically, and then also maybe carp as well.
Definitely. So as far as the buffalo, I don't think any month is better than April. April is crazy out here. Usually the buffalo spawn in like end of March, and as soon as they come off the spawn, the fishing just goes nuts. They start biting everything in sight. We start having those 10 and 15 fish days again. April's really good. Now that said, October and November are some of our best action of the whole year when they're feeding up, getting ready to go into the winter time. My guide service record was caught in October, middle of October, so October is a great month. As far as our common carp, November is probably our best month for big common carp, followed
Okay.
by March. March is also a great buffalo month, but the thing about March here in Texas is you never know if it's going to be 90 degrees or 30 degrees. And every year it seems different. You know, a few years ago, we had a tournament, the Lake Fork tournament in March, where it snowed in March. So you really never know what the weather's going to be. That's why I usually say April's a better month. Now, this year, it went off earlier than I've ever seen. We were having 90-degree days in February. I think that's why we had such a good trip this time. But typically, end of March through May is a great time.
So that's sweet. So that's for everybody who will be interested in booking something with Austin. This is some really useful information. And Tony, who just commented, is absolutely right. You're paying for an experience on a lake full of memories, priceless. Um, I can
Absolutely.
I can tell you as a repeat client, shit, does that ever ring true? Um, every single time I'm coming back, I have absolutely the best memories. You cannot see it because it's out of focus right now, but right here, that's in my office. That's the 63-pound buffalo that we got together on a previous trip. And I have some more images, obviously, from that trip, and now from this one. I'm glad I have a video, but it's absolutely true. It's an experience. If you're looking for that 5-star service, not just for somebody to show you where to fish, tell you where to cast, or helps you to land the fish. No, Austin does everything. If you want to get more involved, by all means, go right ahead. Do as much as you want, but absolutely feel comfortable not doing shit. You know, let
Definitely.
let Austin literally be the brains behind it, and all you're going to do is just be busy holding the fish for the pictures. It's like when Britt commented, our local friend, that it was an amazing session and an amazing week that we had. I said truthfully, it's what, yes, but when you say we, you have to know it's 80% what Austin does as a guide, and 20% me or you or anybody else who is just going to pick up that rod and fight the fish at the end. Yes, you still have to land the fish, so you have to have a little bit of experience there, or sometimes not even. But really, it's all about, everybody knows this, it's all about location is number one. So that's obviously Austin deciding, where are we going, then deciding on a swim. We can go back and forth and talk about it, but ultimately, like I told him, I'll defer to you. Um, then you have to actually find a spot within a swim. So now we're zeroing in more and more on the fish. And then, let him use his fancy West Coast bait boat, to drop the camera maybe underwater to see what's over there. Then actually you don't have to cast because we're fishing usually at distance anyway. Uh, he is really that good at finding spots because I will tell you from experience, it's not that easy, even with a bait boat, to find the correct spot to drop the bait. And then it's also knowing what's the better spot. Is it on the drop off on the other side like we did? Is it before? Obviously, before we were theorizing, maybe not the best because then your lead can roll back. Not necessarily on its own, but maybe when the fish are feeding heavily around it, they can knock the leg and it can roll back. So why don't we place it on the other side of the ridge of the hill? So things like that just tell you that while nothing is ever guaranteed when you go fishing, and everybody knows this, you can almost take it to the bank when you're fishing with Austin. It's just that fucking good, and I've done it with him more than once right now, so I can say that I'm speaking from experience. Austin, Andrew has a follow up question to the previous question. Uh, Best place to fish in Austin area without a bait boat? So short, maybe to mid casting.
I would say LBJ probably. As far as numbers and if you're casting from the bank, LBJ is a great spot and you really don't have to get out there that far to catch the buffalo. If you fish up in the river on the upper end, your cast can literally be as short as just dropping it straight down below the dock. That would be my pick as far as like short range. There's some spots at Ladybird where you don't have to cast very far for the buffalo, and Lake Austin as well. There's some spots. Now it's tougher out there. It's going to take a lot of bait, a lot of coordination. LBJ, you can just show up, throw some rigs in, catch some fish. Marble Falls is also another really good lake. That one's a sleeper. It's got some really big carp and buffalo in it, but it's more of a numbers water. You can go there, no pre bait, fish for a couple hours, catch like 5 or 6 fish. So I would try that one.
No, so that's good information, especially for some of the either local guys or semi-local guys who want to fish over there. So make sure that you guys rewatch it or save the video. This live stream is also on YouTube at the same time, so it's on all over Facebook and on our YouTube channel as well. So if you don't catch it and you want to rewatch it, maybe down the road, you can also catch it on YouTube. It's permanently there. So all the smack that we talked about, Jacob and few others, will be always there. Uh,
On the
Austin,
internet forever.
oh, it's gonna be there. Trust me. Um, Interesting question for you. So now you guide as much as you do. Don't name any names, but you must be seeing some pretty unusual things either on the water or on the bank. What's some of the weirdest or funniest, unexpected experience that you have while guiding, or not?
Man, we've had I've had some crazy things happen. I spend about 200 years, 200 days a year on the bank. So through that, I see a lot of crazy stuff. I'm fishing ladybird, so we've got homeless people around. When I was reeling in my 7110, there was two homeless people in the water bathing right next to me, taking a bath, like literally with shampoo and stuff. So
In
that
the
was pretty
water?
weird. Yes, in the water right next to me while I reeled this fish in. And, I'm freaking out because it's a giant fish and they're just going about their business like nothing's happening, bathing in the water. I've seen one time I had to scare an alligator off of our baited area. That was kind of
What?
weird. Yeah, it kept coming in and the carp were crashing and it just wouldn't leave. It just stayed there. I had a H block marker out in the lake. This was at Lake Fork. And it just kept hanging out and hanging out and hanging out. And it was getting toward dark, and I just did not like seeing that thing out there. So I went out in the kayak and I got about 15 feet from it. And of course, I had my 9 mil with me. So I could have protected myself if I needed to. But he went down. I saw him later that night swimming off in the boat lane. So he was far away. But that was a weird one. I definitely didn't like seeing that when I knew my bivy was, a short zipper from that thing eating me. So that
This,
was a
but I
tough
like it.
one.
You have fancier homeless people and crackheads in Texas than we have in Connecticut. But you know what? I always tell this story.
Yeah, it's crazy with that down here.
Last time when I had a crackhead in Connecticut, I temporarily employed him. We were fishing in the park over there off the
Oh
rocks in
yeah.
Connecticut, and it's very difficult to go down there and net the fish or do whatever. So you give him a brief lesson, you pay in McDonald's, and you have yourself a runner. Okay, and he's far enthusiastic than
Yeah.
most runners. I tell you, you have to do what you have to do on the bank. But that's freaking hilarious. Austin, I have a good question. Let it be for both of us. Scott Edward is
Sure.
asking. So, how do you keep the desire going after catching a once in a lifetime fish? Basically, how do you keep the energy going after catching that once in a lifetime fish? Austin, can you hear me?
Yeah, it broke up for a second. I can hear you again.
So let me repeat the question. How do you keep the desire going after catching a 70 plus pounder?
Man, I just love big fish and all I want is to break that record right now. So I'm trying as hard as I can to try to see a 75-pound buffalo. That's my goal for this year. But what keeps me awake at night, the thing that's like really pushing me is I want that IGFA all tackle record. I don't care if I guide it or if I catch it myself, but the all tackle world record is 82.22. That was caught on 20-pound test way back in 1994. I
Wow.
would love nothing more just shatter that record. So that's this next couple seasons. I think Decker's getting really close to maybe having a fish that size. We've had multiple 70s out now. So there's some fish that are that size in there. And I want nothing more than to catch that one. So that's what's on my mind every day when I set up.
Well, knowing how good you are at what you do, I have a feeling that I'm going to see that post pop up eventually on my timeline. That record has been broken. I mean, God knows you're responsible for more IGFA records than anybody else I could have ever thought of. It's absolutely stupid how many IGFA world records you're responsible for as a guide. That others basically claim. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Austin, for everybody else, in a moment we're going to do giveaway for our fancy K-Carp Italian reel front drag. Um,
Heck yeah.
yeah, I can tell you it's really solid made. I'd never used it, but it seems like you can throw it at the gator and the reel is gonna be okay. You know, uh, Austin, brother, I wanted to thank you for joining us on the live stream, sharing, all the stories and the knowledge that you have that is especially applicable to those massive fish that you have in Texas. I would urge everybody who watches this after the live is over to feel free to ask any questions by submitting a comment on the live stream. I'll make sure that I answer whatever I can. I'm sure Austin will be happy to answer as well. If you have any questions about the booking with
Yeah.
Austin and his CarpPro Texas Guide Service, reach out to him directly. He is the best in the business for both buffalo and carp, and as it turns out, as of recently, catfish. You know, but
Yes.
absolute
We've got
massive
every lake
thanks.
record in the area.
Absolutely, it's freaking awesome, and I submitted that one as well. So I'm waiting for the confirmation in the next few to several weeks. They said. Obviously, a biologist has to review this and all of that stuff, but I counted the rays already on the anal fin, so so I know that that's one of the things that they're going to be doing as well to confirm that it's a channel and not a blue. But it seems like we are good over there. Austin, would you like to give shout out to anybody in particular, any companies you working with, anybody at all?
Definitely want to give a shout out to all my sponsors, West Coast Bait Boats, Proline Baits, Shimano, Waterland. They all do so much for me. I wouldn't be able to do this every day if it wasn't for them. Um, Got to give a big shout out to Nikki because she's watching. She's my girlfriend. Fishing buddy for sure. I'm just ready to get out there on the bank. Talking fishing is making me want to go fishing. So definitely hit me up for those guided trips. If you have any questions at all about catching buffalo, you just want to know more about what I do, want some advice on your rigs or your baits or anything, shoot me a message. Look up my name on Facebook. I'm on there. Look up my CarpPro Texas Guide Service page on Facebook, Texas Carp Guide on Instagram. Any of those places, you can shoot me a message, send me an email, look up my website. I'll be happy to help you.
And Austin, make sure that when you finish, post a couple of links maybe to, or even comments in the comment section so people can find you easier and book those trips easier. They should be filling up pretty quickly. Just because you're the guy for the big fish, whether it's the big carp, big
Heck
buff,
yeah.
or even big catfish or big bass. If anybody's interested in bass fishing guided trips and looking for those double D's, easy there, double digits, I meant, okay? For the bass, he's your guy. Unless you're looking for some double D's unrelated to fishing, then I recommend Ladybird Lake, the swim that you
Yeah.
see, and the jogging trail. Uh, so you get both best of the both worlds. But Austin, brother, thank you so much for everything. We have to do this again at some point. Either after you catch that all tackle record, or maybe when I catch it, which basically we will share 50-50 at that point. But listen, again, massive
Yes.
thank you for joining. Thank you for the amazing trip. And anybody who wants to have similar experience, reach out to Austin from CarpPro Texas Guide Service. He is literally freaking the best at what he does. Austin, brother, thank you so much. I'm going to catch up with you after the show, and we are about to raffle off the sexy reel in the next minute. Texas, thank you. Austin, thank you so much, brother. Austin froze, I think, out of excitement, or his battery might be dying.
I'm back.
Austin, I just wanted to again thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Rafal. I had a great time talking with all of y'all. Can't wait till next time.
Okay. Thank you, Austin. Talk soon. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So that's our show, but I did not forget. I know all of you want to get their hands on this fancy schmancy reel. So, last bits of housekeeping after this awesome show, awesome live stream. And I am going to share with you again the baits that were responsible for a lot of our success, which is the PB muscle pop-ups. Absolutely nothing else worked like those pop-ups. So I dropped the link to those. Then the next bait that worked for us so well was the mulberry hard hook bait. And I dropped link to that as well. And we were topping it off with the fake corn, but it was a sinking corn, not a pop-up, sinking yellow corn. So I dropped that as well. And lastly, we were using some sweet corn and coconut boilies. Those you can find on our website. We were topping it off with yellow sinking corn or pop-up corn, and I dropped you a link to that. Those baits were absolutely killing it. All right, so now I am just dropping off the rules for our raffle. Okay, I'm dropping them off now in the stream. So we are going to raffle away the reel in the next minute or two. Couple of rules to remind you. Only after I say and type go, you will pick a number between 1 and 1,000 and post it in the comment section. You can only pick and type one number between 1 and 1,000. If two people pick the same number, the person who did it first in the comment section owns that number. When I say stop, probably another minute or two after we started, all the number entries can no longer be added and will not be counted. I will type literally start and stop in the comment section when we begin. Then we will randomly pick the winning number using random number generator, and the person closest to the number picked, unless you hit it spot on, without going over, wins the reel. So for example, if the winning number is 500 and we have two entries, one at 499 and one at 501, 499 would win because 501 would be disqualified for going over. Okay? So those are the rules. And in a moment, not yet, we will start picking your numbers. So be ready. We are about to begin. And hold on. And you can start now. Pick number between 1 and 1,000 only one time and post it below in the comment section. Start now. All right, I see the numbers flowing. That's good. And again, you are entering the raffle for this fancy Italian carp reel, K-Carp Reaction XT8000. And we will, of course, ship it to you for free. Oh, wow, the numbers are flowing. And I like the reel. It's built really, really well. Here is some info on it. Okay. Advanced long distance system. And yeah, while you guys still entering your numbers, I am urging you to pick up a jar of those PB Muscle pop-ups. They are just phenomenal. I don't know if it's the smell. Obviously, yellow color is very popular, if those little black speckles, but the scent is just unforgettable. I mean, we were absolutely killing it over there. And the other bait was the mulberry hard hook baits. That's the ones that, if you follow the link, you can see the video on the bottom that shows how much they leaching into the water. Okay, people. So did everybody enter their number? Again, between 1 and 1,000. Do it only once. Going once. Going twice. And we are stopping now. Okay, so everybody entered their numbers. Now we are going over to our left screen where we have the number generator. Okay, so once I hit spin, it's going to spin and pick the winning number. Okay, everybody ready? Let's do this. $8.56. $8.56 is the winning number. 856, high number again. Who's closest? Charles is here. 856. Oh, Bartek has 678. 678. Sam 677. So 678. It seems like Bartek Tenerovich is the winner. Now, for the record, we have two people who entered 678. But remember, it's the person that entered it first is the one that owns that number. 678 was entered by Charles after Bartek entered it. So 678, I'm just confirming again if this is the highest number. And Sam just lost out by one number. That is painful. Let me check. It seems like so. Bartek, I have you as unofficial winner. I'm going to confirm it after the live stream. No pressure. And again, everybody, thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that Austin deserves all the bookings in the world, and God knows they are filling up fast. So make sure you reach out to him if you are interested in booking booking the trip with him. It seems like fall season is just as good as spring season. So keep that in mind in case he's too booked in the coming weeks. But I don't know, reach out to him. He'll tell you the availability. Also, depending on the species that you are after, right? Because if you're after buffs, it could be different than for example, carp, etc. But for everybody else who was watching us, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you joined us today. Bartek, congrats on the reel that you've won. Any questions that anybody has regarding what we talked about today, please post a comment. Me and Austin will try to go over them and answer as many as we possibly can. And, spring is starting. It's around the corner for most of us. So I'm wishing everybody tight lines. And I will be in contact with you online. If you have any questions, again, drop a comment. I will respond to them. If not today, then I'll be doing that tomorrow. Take a look at the links that I submitted for the baits that were killing for us in Texas. They will be probably killing it for you wherever you are because they simply work. And again, thanks to Austin, who already left the show. I will also keep in touch with him probably regarding another trip I will be booking. So everybody, again, thank you so much. Have a good night, and I'll let you know about the next upcoming live stream probably in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Bye.